How do you know when you're enlightened is our question for today. And I thought I'd keep going with these controversial videos because, when you're on a roll, keep rolling, So, you're enlightened whenever you don't have any more buttons to be pushed. Whenever nothing else bothers you. Whenever, no one can push your buttons. Nothing pushes your buttons. That's it. You're in a state of bliss and peace and bliss and that's it. Nothing can throw you off center. That would be a possible definition of enlightenment. So how many people out there are enlightened? My guess would be zero. I don't think I've ever met someone who I could say is enlightened, because I think anyone out there is something will push the buttons. But if you want to know how far away you are from enlightened, that's if anything pushes your buttons. That if you get upset by anything, someone kind of looks at you and you think, oh, why is that person looking at me? What do they think and stuff like that? Or someone says something and it rubs you up the wrong way, and you're always going around in reaction. You're always reacting. Yeah. So someone cuts you off on the road and you freak out. Whatever. That's a reactive sort of place to be, and that's probably for being further away from enlightenment. But enlightenment, I think, is a trap. I call it the Enlightenment Trap, right? Because once a person thinks they're enlightened, then there's no more growth. Then they can just kind of stay in their enlightened state, and then they're not going to continue growing. But are they really enlightened, or have they just become completely comfortable with their surroundings and completely certain, and so nothing throws them off center? And the Buddhist monks are maybe a good example of this. I spent some time in Buddhist monasteries, and you like this sort of monastic lifestyle where it is very peaceful, it is very tranquil. There are no stresses. Every day is exactly the same, and it's cool. It's chilled, and you do get into these blissful states of peace and just bliss with everything, all your surroundings. So in that state, it is very easy for one to think that, I must be enlightened. But quite often, when we get to a place where we think we're enlightened, then the powers that be come in and, start pushing our buttons and show us that we're not. I think it was Gandhi that said, if you think you're enlightened, go live with your family again for a week in the same house and see how enlightened you feel after that. If you look at in Burma when the civil war kind of kicked off, and obviously very very Buddhist population there. I think almost 100% Buddhists in Burma. Many of them are monks in monasteries. Some, I guess, a lot of them thinking they're enlightened, and then suddenly they're hearing that their villages have been burnt down and their families have been killed and their friends and everything. And a lot of those monks didn't feel enlightened anymore. A lot of them said, okay, time to take off the orange robes, put on the camouflage gear, pick up an AK-47, and let's go get the bastards. It's amazing how quickly people can change given a set of circumstances. And are they right to do that? Well, I guess so. I guess I'd do the same thing. So yeah. So what is enlightenment? Maybe getting to a stage where nothing push your buttons. Maybe where you realize, yes, we are in a dream world, and when you wake up in a dream, have you ever been in a dream where you suddenly realize, oh, it's a dream, but before you realize that you're afraid and everything, or some stuff was happening, and suddenly you realize it's a dream, and then suddenly all the fear goes away and nothing can bother you anymore. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's it. Maybe there are people in the world that have got to that stage where they do realize that the universe is a hologram. They've realized this with every cell of their body, and nothing does actually perturb them anymore. Personally, I've never met anyone like that, And my guess is that there isn't, because then there'd be no point being here. We live in this polarized universe, and somebody wrote in the comments the last couple of days about polarity, and wrote a lot about polarity, and that's important to understand polarity. We live in this polarized universe, and whenever we're pulled one way or the other, that's us off balance. Whenever we get really, really, really positive, we're actually off balance. The same way as if we get really, really, really negative, we're off balance. If we perceive a situation or an event as being either in some way terrible, we're off balance. Our perceptions are off balance. If we perceive an event as being really terrific, we're also off balance, because there are two sides to every situation. So once we can balance our perceptions with every situation, then that's us in a state of balance. That's us in a state of equilibrium. And maybe that is us closer to enlightenment than before. The further we are one side of the spectrum than the other, that's the furthest away we are from enlightenment. The more centered we are, the closer we are to enlightenment, I guess. But will we ever attain it? No, I think it's a trap. Once we think we've attained it, and we're still here, we're on the planet, my guess is that will be a trap, right? Because then there's no more growth. And there's always room for growth, right? There's always room for growth. So we also get this in relationships as well, When you hear someone say, oh, that person, they brought a lot of baggage into the relationship. What does that mean? What that actually means is that they've had previous relationships where they've perceived events in that relationship as either really negative or even really positive, right? And whenever there's a charge, on either polarity, that charge comes with them. And that charge is actually baggage. The charge actually pulls you down. Once you equilibrate the charges, then you collapse them. And then there's no more charge, right? The charge is reaction, the charge is reactiveness. So if someone's in a relationship and suddenly the other person does something to them, right, whatever it is, then they carry that same memory with them into the next relationship, and then that person next relationship says something which is maybe very, very similar to what the other person said, and suddenly the person completely overreacts, freaks out completely. They go, what's up with them? That's their baggage. They brought the baggage forward with them. So it's wise to look at anything in your life, and anything that you've really polarized. That was a terrible time in my life, That was such an amazing time in my life. I'm trying to recreate it. You want to actually balance it out, and so the one that's really amazing thing that happened in your life, you go, I wish we could recreate that event that happened, whether it was a vacation or whether it was a relationship you're in or whatever. You're constantly trying to recreate that. You're better not to do that, because that's actually baggage. You're better to look at that and go, okay, what was actually not so great about that? What were the downsides to that situation? Same thing with the terrible thing. Something really awful happened something in the past. Look at that event and go, well, what was really great about that? And straight away, probably the brain goes, well, there's nothing really great about that. That was shit. But then you've got to override that. You've got to go, okay, well, let's look at it again. What was really great about that? And you keep asking the question until you can actually equilibrate it. And once you equilibrate it, then it collapses, and then there's no more baggage. Right? So the less baggage you have in your life, the more enlightened you are. But again, I'll say it again, I do believe it's a trap to ever think that one is enlightened. Because then there's no more growth. And then it's also a good time for the powers that be to start really pushing your buttons to show you that you've got more buttons to be pushed, right? So no matter who you are, you're the enlightened monk who's meditated for 40 years, it's that monk can still get his buttons pushed, for sure. There's still a way, goes up prodding them in meditation, slapping them around the head, pulling their ears. They'll start getting pissed off, Everyone get the buttons pushed, right? So, that is it's a really important understanding for life, is to understand polarity and to be able to equilibrate every situation in our life. You know, that is empowerment. That is empowerment. That is creating miracles. Looking at a terrible event and being able to collapse it. Looking at a terrific event, which is actually also like an infatuation of something that we're trying to recreate, and we're always upset or pissed off or disappointed that we can never recreate that. Again, once you collapse that, disappointment goes away. Okay, so you know, a lot to get your head around that one, but you know, maybe watch it a few times and leave me a comment, leave me a question. Always enjoy the questions coming in, and subscribe and like the video. See you next time.